In the summer of 1979, the entire world was watching the sky because a 77-ton space station was falling toward it, and nobody could say exactly where it would land. Not NASA, not the world's best trackers, not one single person on Earth. It could come down over an ocean. It could come down over a city. All anyone could do was wait and watch. The station was called Skylab, America's first, launched on May 14, 1973, on top of a modified Saturn V rocket. At over 100 feet long, it was the largest object America had ever put into orbit, home to 3 separate astronaut crews over the following year. Welcome to Solar Hour, where we uncover the strangest, most dangerous, and most astonishing stories our solar system has to offer. Its final crew departed in February 1974, leaving Skylab empty in orbit, with plans to eventually revisit it using NASA's next vehicle, the Space Shuttle. That plan had a problem. The shuttle wasn't ready yet, and its development kept slipping further behind schedule. Skylab, meanwhile, was slowly losing altitude the entire time, pulled down by the same faint atmospheric drag every low-orbit object eventually feels. NASA had hoped to use a future shuttle mission to boost it into a higher, stable orbit or guide it down safely. Neither would happen in time. Making matters worse, the Sun entered a period of higher-than-expected activity in the late 1970s. That extra solar energy heated and expanded Earth's upper atmosphere, thickening it just enough to drag on Skylab far more than engineers had planned for. A British mathematician named Desmond Kingheel had actually predicted years earlier that Skylab would fall sooner than NASA's own official estimates. He was right. By 1978, it was clear Skylab's orbit would decay completely within about a year, with no rescue mission coming to stop it. For the first time, NASA had to publicly reckon with a question it had never faced before. What happens when a spacecraft this large falls, uncontrolled, back to Earth? A fully controlled reentry, steering the debris precisely into open ocean, required propulsion. Skylab no longer reliably had enough fuel to guarantee. The best NASA could do was influence Skylab's orientation during its final orbits, nudging the odds toward a splashdown far from populated land. Nudging the odds was not the same as controlling the outcome. Even NASA's own predictions carried a margin of error spanning thousands of miles. As the re-entry date approached in the summer of 1979, that uncertainty became the biggest space story in the world. Newspapers ran daily updates on Skylab's falling orbit, the same way they might track an approaching hurricane. Nobody was in real danger, statistically speaking. Most of Earth's surface is ocean, and most of Skylab was expected to burn up in the atmosphere entirely. But that didn't stop the public's imagination from running wild, and the public response that followed became almost as memorable as the event itself. American newspapers jokingly advertised Skylab insurance policies, promising payouts to anyone struck by falling debris. Novelty stores sold hard hats branded specifically for Skylab watching parties, worn half in jest and half in genuine caution. Bars and backyards across the country hosted Skylab parties, where people gathered to watch the sky, half expecting a show. One newspaper took the joke further than any other. The San Francisco Examiner offered $10,000 to the first person who delivered a piece of Skylab debris to its office within 72 hours of the crash. The Examiner assumed it was making an easy, safe bet. Skylab wasn't projected to come down anywhere near the continental United States. On July 11, 1979, engineers made their final calculations and fired Skylab's remaining thrusters, hoping to tip its re-entry angle toward the Indian Ocean. At 16:37 Universal Time, Skylab finally began to break apart in the upper atmosphere, just as its orbit decayed past the point of no return. The breakup happened slightly later and slightly lower than mission planners had modeled. Most of the surviving wreckage did fall into the Indian Ocean, exactly as hoped. But some pieces continued on, scattering across the sparsely populated outback of Western Australia. Fragments of Skylab landed near a small coastal town named Esperance, a place that suddenly found itself at the center of a global news story. Remarkably, despite chunks of a space station literally falling from orbit onto inhabited land, there were no reported injuries and no serious property damage. One of the people closest to the action was 17-year-old Stan Thornton, a resident of Esperance who awoke to the sound of Skylab breaking apart directly over his own house. Thornton grabbed several charred fragments that had landed in his yard and immediately thought of one thing: the San Francisco Examiner's $10,000 bounty. He boarded a plane to San Francisco that same day, without a passport and without so much as a change of clothes, racing the newspaper's 72-hour deadline. He made it in time, delivering genuine pieces of Skylab to the Examiner's office and collecting the full $10,000 prize. The newspaper's confident, low-risk publicity stunt had, against all odds, actually paid out. Back in Esperance, local officials weighed in with a joke of their own, one that would end up outliving almost everyone involved. The Shire of Esperance issued the United States government an official $400 fine for littering. It was mostly theater. No small Australian shire seriously expected to enforce a littering law against a superpower's fallen space station. But the fine was real, formally issued, and for 3 decades it went completely unpaid. In 2009, on Skylab's 30th anniversary, an American radio host named Scott Barley finally paid it off, raising the $400 from his own listeners. It remains, to this day, one of the more unusual footnotes in the entire history of the American space program, a littering ticket closed out 3 decades late by total strangers. Behind the jokes and the novelty hats, Skylab's fall was a genuine turning point in how space agencies thought about the objects they put into orbit. Before 1979, few people outside the industry had ever seriously considered what happens when a spacecraft the size of a small building comes back down uncontrolled. After Skylab, controlled deorbiting became a standard requirement for every major space station built since. Russia's Mir station, decommissioned in 2001, was deliberately steered into a precise, uninhabited stretch of the South Pacific. The International Space Station's own eventual retirement is already being planned the same way, with a controlled descent into that same remote ocean region. Skylab never got that luxury. It fell the way it had orbited for its final years, slowly losing the fight against an atmosphere nobody had fully accounted for. For a few weeks in 1979, an entire planet looked up at the same uncertain sky, joined by nothing more than a shared, half-serious anxiety. In the end, nobody was hurt. A teenager in a small Australian town got a strange, unforgettable story and $10,000. And a space agency capable of sending men to the moon walked away with a $400 littering fine and a lesson about the limits of control.